Yeah, we're at San Bernardino Valley College. This is before my mission. And I was a member of Lambda Delta Sigma, which was a sorority. Now, because it was men and women. Now, Lambda Delta now is just a sorority. You know, it went to just the women's side. But one of the girls that was coming to the Institute was Pauline. And so she and I were dating, and we got serious enough where she was talking that she wanted to get married, and I was talking that, well, I needed to go on a mission. And she says, well, if you go on a mission, then we won't be getting married. I says, well, that's pretty right. And so I went on my mission, got my mission called to the Northern States Mission. And shortly after I left on my mission, I got word that she had got together with an old boyfriend and got married. So she was out of my life. Ron Utter says that it's a good thing we didn't get married because she had a prominent nose and I have a prominent nose. And he says my kids and grandkids would be in trouble with prominent noses. Ron Utter, I met Ron Utter there. Interesting thing on Ron, he grew up in a very, very difficult family and situation. And he got a job with Baumgartner, which was constructing. They were building a church, LDS church, and they were all LDS kids except for Ron. And he says, what's the matter with these people? They don't swear. They don't drink coffee. They don't drink alcohol. He says, what is going on? And so he joined the church at age 19. He joined the church at age 19. And then went on a mission at age 20 to Brazil. And I left on my mission to Chicago at the same time. And Dave Herring, who was another buddy of mine, went to Belgium, France. And so we all three left on our missions at the same time. 1964 to 1966, went to the Northern States Mission. And assignments were in Chain of Lakes area and Chicago. I was in Chicago for 7 months. And out into DeKalb, into Iowa. We had third part of Iowa and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and we had Wisconsin. So it was quite an extensive area. Funny story in the mission, we were out in Iowa. My companion and I were visiting some members, and all of a sudden the sirens went off. And I said, what's going on? And he says, well, there's a tornado coming this way. And so they all started heading for the basement. I went out on the porch, and I was standing there on the porch, and the sister says, Elder, what are you doing? I says, I've never seen a tornado. She says, get in here. So anyway, I didn't get to see my tornado. In Chicago, I was assigned to the Logan Square ward. And one Sunday, a member came in and said, we just got a call, and handed me a piece of paper and says, you need to go to this address. Now, this address, if you're familiar with big cities, there's some really good parts of town, and there's some really parts of town that you have to be careful with. This was one of those careful areas. And so my companion and I get on the L train, and we ride for about a half an hour down and over into one of these really hard parts of town, got off the L train, and then for about 20 blocks, we're walking, no street lights. This is after dark, no street lights, and we knew about where it was, and we went up against these apartments where you come into an entrance, and then there's apartment on the first floor, second floor, and third floor. And so you have six apartments in these buildings, and they just go on and on and on forever like this. So anyway, we go up against the building and felt the numbers. They were raised. So we knew that we had the right building because of the raised numbers on the side. We didn't have a flashlight. We go into the entry and everything is dark. And we think, okay, we don't know which apartment it is. And we close the door and it clicks. And then up on the third floor, a door opens and a Latino lady shouts down the stairwell. She says, "Elders?" And yes, we're in the right place. We go up the stairs and we walk in. She doesn't speak English. She has a baby, probably small, 6 months, maybe 9 months old, something like that, burning with fever. And she hands me the baby. And so I'm holding the baby, and she nods. I said, okay. So I look at my companion, and he anoints the baby, and I gave the blessing. And while I'm giving the blessing, the baby cooled to a normal temperature in my hands. And I handed the baby back to her. She smiled, nodded her head. Gracias, elders. And then we go down, hike back up to where the L train was, got on the L train, and back to where our apartment was. The next day we were talking to a family, and we told her the experience. And she says, "Where was this?" We told her, and she says, "And you're still alive?" That was. But there was a gang member in the Logan Square ward, and we were talking to him, and he says, "Don't worry, elders, don't worry." He says, "God's people, you're God's people. We don't mess with God's people." Yeah, and that was the interesting thing about missions, and I think every missionary has had this kind of experience where you're walking down the street, and we stop and say, "We need to track this side," so we go up, and this first door that we knock on, it's in one of these again these apartments, these 6-level apartments. First floor, the door is wide open. We knock and nobody answers, and there's this fellow that comes in right behind us, older fellow, and we said, "Do you live here?" And he said, "No." He says, "I'm the music teacher." He says, I need to teach class at this, and he says, "There's got to be somebody here." And we says, "Well, we're the missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Mormon Church." And he says, "The Mormon Tabernacle Choir is the greatest choir in the world." I says, "Really?" And he says, "Yes." And I says, "How do you know that?" And he says, "When they sing as a single voice. And there's 400 members." And he says, "That's how you can tell." I says, "Okay." I said, "Well, would you like to talk with us?" And he says, "I would." And so we set up an appointment, and he was eventually baptized. And Brother Betcher, and he played the organ and did the music for the Logan Square Ward for years until he passed away. But the Lord really listens to the missionaries, whether you're right or wrong. He still listens. In Chicago, it would rain, and when it rained, it wasn't a little bit of misting. I mean, it was the sky unzipped and it rained hard. And so we were walking back to our apartment, and it was getting to be lunchtime, and it started to drip, and we says, "Okay, we're in trouble." And so I looked at my companion, I said a prayer. I says, "Heavenly Father, we're going to be back in our apartment at 12 o'clock for our lunch. Can you hold the rain?" And it stopped. I mean, it just dead stopped. And then we got interested. There's this area that we wanted to track down. We wanted to knock on a couple of doors. So we went, knocked on a couple of doors. We were delayed. And so we were about 15, 20 minutes from home. Now we're walking. It's 12 o'clock. The sky unzipped. we were drenched by the time we got in the apartment. But, we asked for 12 o'clock, and he hit it right on the button. So